Straight to the point for the hot takes this week. I'm going to touch on the Inflation Reduction Act, which I talked about last week, but again, due to my audio, there were some issues. But as you can see now, President Biden did recently sign the bill into law, and more people are coming forward now saying that this Inflation Reduction Act will have no measurable impact on inflation. Like I said in the last episode, I was trying to explain to everybody what this bill really is. It's just a way to get people on board with the wording of it because there's really nothing in here that's going to decrease our inflation anytime soon. In fact, when have you ever seen any bill that spends more money to reduce the amount of spending that we're doing? It just doesn't make sense. So today on Yahoo Finance, they had a great article on this, and they were talking about how they have had a few economists who were looking into this, and they're saying that the $430 billion price tag over the next 10 years is a hefty amount of what they consider to be a marginal economic returns. And then they have this really great chart here. Let me go zoom in a little bit further so you guys can completely see this. Let me zoom in. Let me see if that even works here real quick. There we go. I love this chart, and I'm going to put this link here or in the description below so you guys can click on it. But it shows like how the money is raised and then how it's being spent. And the big takeaway from last week's episode, which I want to touch on, was the increase of tax collection from the IRS, right? So they're planning on funding the IRS a lot more, which will require them to try to get more money from people. Now, I've been listening to a few other YouTubers who may not agree with my thesis that this is not a good idea because the IRS will start targeting more the middle class and lower class. And one of the YouTubers that I follow, which I actually like, his name is Strongman Personal Finance. He is a CPA, and he was saying that he doesn't think that the IRS is actually going to go after the middle class and the lower class. I would strongly disagree. He was saying that, oh, it's why would they go after people who have to pay $100 or $200? But in fact, that's really not what they end up having to pay when they get that proposal. That's what it's called. It's a proposal bill that you get in the mail sometimes if you get audited and there's something that's off. They give you a proposal bill and take all the tax credit off. They take everything off, and you get hit with this big fat bill. And their hopes is that you don't actually fight it and you just pay the thousands of dollars that they may say that you owe. The problem is, like, if you do this with enough people, after a while, a majority of them, I would say, probably would just pay the bill because they're afraid of the IRS, not realizing that it's a proposal. It doesn't mean you have to pay that. You can actually fight it. You could resubmit your paperwork and fix whatever issues that they found or think that you forgot to file, and they will readjust it. And sometimes you'd be surprised you may actually get money back. But I do strongly believe that they typically go after the middle class and lower class because the average person will not pay for a lawyer to fight the IRS. Where big corporations that have all these tax breaks, they have lawyers on hand that are willing to fight the IRS. And a lot of these lawyers sometimes have actually worked for the IRS, so they know all the lingo and what they're trying to do. But not only that, these corporations, they already know every single loophole that's out there, so the likelihood of them making mistakes is pretty much slim to none. Whereas our middle class and lower class, we go to H&R Block, which are really just overnight trained, I guess, tax accountant for a short period of time. They're not even a real tax accountant. They're just like a regular employee at a Walmart that gets trained up for 30 days or so. It's probably online these days. Last I checked, it was in person for like a week. And then it just basically just type in and follow the prompts that show up on the screen, just like taxslayer.com or TurboTax. It's exactly the same thing. And a lot of people make mistakes using those programs because they're not familiar with all the taxes and the tax codes and et cetera. That's why I'm a real component that if you have any sort of asset, whether it's, even if it's just a house, go get yourself a tax accountant. They know what to write off. The law changes every single day, and it's extremely important that you know about all the tax advantages that you can take advantage of, just like these big corporation millionaires do. Like what you saw was baffled me. I know I'm going on this tangent here, but people used to get so upset at the fact that Amazon didn't pay taxes for years, or that Tesla didn't pay taxes for years, that Donald Trump didn't pay taxes for years. Well, they're not doing anything illegal. Like, regardless of what the narrative is out there on these news channels, they're just taking advantage of the tax loopholes and tax codes that were put in by the politicians that are telling you that they're now going to tax corporate businesses 15% that are, I believe, over $1 billion, and then tax point 1% for buybacks. And if you truly believe that that's going to happen, it's probably not. Majority of them are going to have some sort of loopholes or some sort of other discount or credit or something else where they're going to be able to avoid that 15% corporate minimum tax that they're going to try to charge. Trust me on that. This, I think that's like me. If I'm a billionaire, why would I vote on something that's going to hurt me personally? I mean, we're America is a capitalistic country. They're not going to do that. So, I know I'm ranting here. What do you think, Mo? You have any input on this?
Well, a lot of people think, middle class, you're not, government's not going to get much out of it, but a lot of people don't understand. Only 8% of people in America actually make over 400K. The other 92% does fall in middle class or upper middle class. So you might not have big quantity, but the amount of people that are there makes up for that. And then, like you said, Mark, let's say I'm getting penalized for $4,000. At some point, it might not be worth it going to a lawyer who charges $400 or $700 an hour. Might take him 4 to 5 hours to actually go through it. So there might have, and then your time and stress. So most people would just pay it, right? On the other hand, if it's, let's say it's a corporation and it's 100, 200K, then it's worth going to an accountant and paying $4,000 or $5,000 to look at it. So the government's pretty strategic too. It's like the ROI. Where do you get the most ROI from? It's the middle class people.
Yep. Yep. So be careful at that. I really recommend it. Seriously, find a tax accountant. I know they're kind of expensive. Like my tax accountant, I think this year I paid $750 for him to do my taxes, but he gets me back a lot of money. And again, I have businesses and stuff, but I've been using a tax accountant for about 10 years. I have been audited twice. I did fight it and I won. So that's why I'm saying, so just be very careful. Just because they send you a bill and it says it's a proposal, that's exactly what it is. It's just a proposal. That's it. That's it. And then you'd be surprised. If you have a tax account, you can go to them with that and they can probably help you get out of whatever bind that you need. But of course, everything needs to be legitimate. Make sure you have your paperwork in hand. I know everyone out there has been getting LLCs just to have an LLC. Actually have a business attached to that LLC. That's just a word of advice. I've seen some of these ridiculous groups out there where they bring on these so-called experts and they're telling you just to go get an LLC. You don't really need a business or nonprofit. Be careful. You're getting caught up. Just like with the PPA loans, right? All those folks who are getting hit with it right now, right? Because there's all these gurus out there used to tell you, hey, if you don't have a business, get an LLC or get a business license. Now you get that PPA loan. Now look at you. Now you might get arrested. You might get audited. So much stuff is going to happen. So be careful what advice you're taking when it comes to these online gurus. Be very careful. But yeah, real quick back to the Inflation Reduction Act, the new clean electricity tax credit. Here is a list of vehicles that actually qualify for this tax credit, and we talked about that in the last episode as well. But just in case, like I said, my audio was in and out, kind of sucks. Sorry. But this is a list right now, the 2022 models that are going to likely qualify for this Inflation Reduction Act tax credit. But like we mentioned in the last episode, figure out if it's a tax credit or a tax. What was the other word I was looking for? It was a tax
Rebate?
credit. Rebate, yeah, tax credit or tax rebate. So you need to figure out which is what because there is a major difference. But if you look here, the Teslas are not on the list as you can see, and there's a reason why because they already exceeded their tax break. But starting 2023, they're being on the list again supposedly. So we'll see what happens from there. But these are the vehicles that you can currently take advantage of when it comes to these tax rebates. But again, it's 7,500 on average for tax rebate, and most of these vehicles just raise their prices by a minimum of $10,000, which is complete BS. And Mo touched on that last time. Do you want to touch on that real quick again?
Yeah, so a lot of this is being done to kind of pump up the numbers too. For instance, they gave a $7,500 credit to Ford for their Ford 150, right? And Ford 150 actually increased their prices by $8,500. So really, you're now paying $1,000 more. So they're using that as leverage.
Yeah, which really sucks. And this is like with everything. That's like the same way when everyone wanted to always have like those stimulus checks and they want to have that like as a consistent thing where every single month you get a check by the government. What's going to happen? Corporations are just going to raise their prices. That's the reality of everything. You're you're not going to get a hookup. You got to be careful. Like it's just all just sweet talk to finesse you into believing that this bill is going to help the economy and etc. And in reality, it's really not. It's just a way to finesse you into believing that this is a great bill because even if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act bill, it's basically just a repurposed Green New Deal bill. That's really what it is. If you look into it, it's ridiculous. So on to the next topic is Warner Brothers. Have you been looking at this stock at all,
No,
Mo?
man. Is it investing or trading?
This is going to be investing because I don't think that it has enough volume